Destiny 1's second and final major expansion, Rise of Iron, released on September 20th, 2016, a little over 9 years ago. Rise of Iron launched in an interesting position, smushed between the massive success of The Taken King and the game's sequel, Destiny 2. And let me tell you, you can tell. I don't write these scripts until after I've replayed through the game and sifted through the footage, so I'll go into more detail on that later in the video. But going into this, I had positive memories of Rise of Iron. I don't remember liking it as much as The Taken King, but I recalled loving the aesthetic, music, and raid in particular. I think most of all, I remember liking Destiny in general during this era, as in many ways, the game was complete, so to speak. Now, I've already covered the first year of Destiny 1 and The Taken King in my previous videos, so if you'd like to watch those parts chronologically, I'll leave them linked in the description for you. But for the sake of this video, I've gone back and replayed through Rise of Iron, and now we're going to answer the question: how does it hold up 9 years later? Just as we did in the Taken King video, let's remind ourselves what Rise of Iron added to Destiny. There were 5 missions as part of its campaign, as well as a slew of other quest missions you could do once the main story was over. There was one new strike called the Wretched Eye, and 4 other reprised or remade strikes, like the Devil's Lair with Sepix Perfected. Rise of Iron had one new raid called the Wrath of the Machine, one new patrol zone with the Plaguelands, and one new activity, Archon's Forge, which was sort of a mashup between the Prison of Elders and the Court of Oryx. On top of that, there were 3 new Crucible maps, or you got 4 if you played on PlayStation, and one new Crucible game mode called Supremacy, which was basically kill confirmed from Call of Duty. This was also when Bungie introduced private and custom matches. There were 7 new exotic weapons, or less if you don't count reprised weapons like the Kovustav and Gallarhorn and Thorn, and yeah. Or I guess if you count those and consider the Void and Solar versions of Thunderlord as 2 exotics, then you could say there were about 8 or 9, but those were also introduced during the Dawning that year and not Rise of Iron's launch, so it's confusing. I'm gonna say around 7, but you can give or take 1 or 2 there. In addition to the weapons, there were 7 new exotic armor pieces, Titans and Hunters each got 2, and those stupid Warlocks got 3. And finally, throughout the year, Bungie updated the game a few times. Outside of the standard holiday events like the Dawning and Festival of the Lost, there was the Age of Triumph, which added raid challenges to Vault of Glass and Crota's End, alongside a 13-page record book. It was also around this time where Bungie dropped support for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, meaning if you play the game on those consoles today, it is still forever frozen in time during the Taken King era. Now, if you watched the last video, which you should have, you probably noted this is a significant drop-off in the amount of content offered. However, despite people loving the Taken King and wanting that to be the norm from there on out, there was an understanding from many players that the Taken King was the exception and not the standard. The Taken King not only brought new content into Destiny, but it had to fix a lot of problems with Destiny Vanilla. Since that work was basically now done, and since Bungie was working on Destiny 2 simultaneously, Rise of Iron in a lot of ways existed to keep people occupied until the sequel came, explaining why it was smaller in scope. To this day, you actually see a lot of Destiny players use the Taken King and Rise of Iron as these measuring sticks when talking about new content. They'll say Forsaken was a Taken King-sized expansion, which is a metric Destiny veterans will understand, but for anyone else, they will be as confused as my dad is when he's trying to order something at Starbucks.
Flip right double, X jet, 36 counter naked waggle at 7, X quarter.
Some of you are probably wondering why I didn't mention the Devil Splicers as part of new content. And that's just because they are not a new enemy faction in my eyes. They use the same core archetypes as Fallen. You got your Dregs, Vandals, Captains, Servitors, Shanks, etc. And outside of a few new combat wrinkles, they're basically just a variant of the Fallen with a distinctive look. This is a legitimate question. Does I almost call them the Taken Fallen, the Splicer Fallen? Do they behave literally any different from normal Fallen?
Maybe.
Speaking of variants, you also have the Plague Lands, which is kind of like a winter Christmas themed version of the Cosmodrome, perfect to play during the holiday season. And just in case you weren't already in the holiday mood, my friends at Logitech have an amazing campaign you can participate in this year. Growing up in Chicago, the winters were very cold. They are actually still very cold. It was like -6 at the Bears game this weekend. Dude's drink literally turned to ice the second after he opened it. Oh, great heavens! Safe to say, most of us spend a lot of time indoors during the winter, watching some movies, playing some games, maybe cuddling by the fire with that special someone. If I had one! And what gamer wouldn't want a new mouse or keyboard or headset for Christmas? That's why right now you can hop onto DoorDash and get yourself some new Logitech G gear via Best Buy, who have some exclusive offers at the moment. But the holiday season isn't just about getting things, it's also about giving, and Logitech G has you covered there as well. You can head to any Best Buy physical location, bring in your old gaming gear from any brand, and they will recycle it for you, as well as offer you a 20% discount off of your next purchase. All you gotta do is tell them that Logitech G sent you. Plus, for every donation Best Buy receives up to 500 units, Logitech G will donate a new box and unit to their charitable partner, Gamers Outreach, which empowers hospitalized children and their families through video games. So you'll be upgrading your setup, recycling tech you don't need, and most importantly, putting a smile on a child's face this holiday season. Thank you to Logitech G for sponsoring this video, and now, let's get back to it. The second I hopped back into Rise of Iron, I was reminded just how cool the aesthetic of this expansion is. I've said this in many other videos, but anytime there's snow in a game, I'm locked in. Batman Arkham Origins, Spider-Man Miles Morales, the original Division, I'd be eating this stuff up, especially if it takes place around a holiday. Rise of Iron centers around Lord Saladin, or as he's known in many Destiny circles, Lord Saladman. It will take every fiber of my being to not call him Lord Saladman for this entire video. But basically, Lord Saladman had all of his friends, known as the Iron Lords, die while attempting to control and seal away Siva, which is an old Golden Age nanotech plague thing. This happened many, many years ago. In the present, the fallen House of Devils discovers and breaches an old Siva site, experimenting with it on themselves, becoming the Devil Splicers. Because of this, Lord Saladin steps away from the Iron Banner to help you stop the Fallen from repeating the disaster the Iron Lords died to prevent. Or as I wanted to put it, Lord Saladman steps away from the Iron Banana. Okay, I'll stop. Just like last time, if I was going to replay through the campaign, I needed to equip some of the best weapons from the time. The gear kind of just is what it is. I was just trying to look not stupid and include some of the raid gear, but I included some of the raid weapons I got back in the day, as well as some notable weapons: Outbreak Prime, Gallarhorn, the Palindrome, Nemesis Star, and I even threw the reprised Fatebringer in there, which was re-added into the loot pool during the Age of Triumph as an exotic. Have they brought this into Destiny 2? Nemesis Star? The seal gun, as I used to call it. I mean, look at this thing. You cannot tell me this doesn't look like a seal. Oh, Fatebringer, I've missed you, baby. Oh! Oh my god. Y'all didn't see that. Y'all did not see that either. Y'all did not see none of that. I don't want to keep bringing up the Taken King and comparing everything in Destiny to that, even though I'm going to. It's probably not fair, but playing through Rise of Iron reestablished in my brain how the Taken King remains the bar to match, because the story in Rise of Iron is not good. I praised the Taken King for merging the story with Destiny's open world design and gameplay mechanics, and from the jump, Rise of Iron doesn't do this. Some of you may think I'm nitpicking with what I'm about to say, and admittedly, I do make some of these criticisms tongue-in-cheek. But for example, The first mission sees you rushing to Fellwinter Peak to stop the Fallen, when you can so obviously just land your ship straight there. Dude, we have a spaceship. Why couldn't he just drop us off at the top? We really gotta take this? This became even goofier to me when you watch Lord Saladin make his entrance with his ship conveniently the second after you make Sepic's retreat. Again, some of you may think I'm nitpicking here, and if this clip were just shown by itself, I might be. But this type of thing happens quite a bit, and I think it shows a general lack of attention to detail when it comes to this expansion. As I'm going to point out later in this video, there are several areas where I feel Bungie took a step backwards. Vanilla Destiny had problems, The Taken King fixed them, and then Rise of Iron seemingly reverted back to many of those same problems. I know we started seeing this in Destiny 2, but this would have been a really cool moment to fight alongside Saladin rather than have him appear in cutscenes only. Shortly after this, we're introduced to my boy, Shiro 4, a vendor at Fellwinter Peak who was pretty much written out of the story after this, just like Siva was. Is Shiro the new like quest guy in Destiny 2? I don't remember. If so, massively underutilized, like random character they introduced here and then... No, that's Shah Han. What happened to Shiro? Shiro got snubbed for Hunter Vanguard, didn't he, huh? By Crow. What happened to Shiro? Someone has Bife, I don't remember. Yet again. And speaking of Siva, that licorice, this is another criticism I have. First of all, I think Siva looks awesome. And like Twizzlers. I think having Siva is a cool idea. I kind of wish Bungie didn't leave it here in the past, but it would be remiss of me to not mention this. Vanilla Destiny received a lot of flack for the final boss being ambiguous darkness blob, and inversely, the Taken King benefited from having a tangible boss in Oryx. Oryx was a character. Oryx had agency, personality, and a goal. That to me was a step forward in Destiny's storytelling. But Siva by comparison is just a force of nature. It's visually striking and dangerous, but doesn't think or speak or interact with the player. There's no moral reasoning or conversation or personal vendetta. It's just another threat the game tells you to shoot. And because of that, you play through the game not really knowing what it is or caring about what it's trying to do, especially if you only play the story missions and don't read the lore. There's like such a better, cooler story you could tell with this. Like the world of Destiny and the premise and all of the art direction and the music and everything, it just deserves better, that's all I gotta say. In the game's 5 story missions, you won't reach the Plague Lands until the 3rd mission. And then the 4th mission takes you to an area you've already been to on Mars, serving as the patented Destiny filler mission on a different planet. I swear all their campaigns have. Woo! That was poorly timed. Saladin's like, all my friends died here, and I'm out here hitting clips. I've been playing too much of the finals. I wanted to pick this up and throw it at him. This sound design on Thorn is absolutely unbelievably good. Like seriously, one of the coolest. Such a cool looking and sounding weapon. Hello? Oh, I did not mean to do that to you, bro. I thought that was like a Colossus or something waiting for me. And then to close things out, the 5th mission leads you back to the Plague Lands, but it's the climax already. The story ends here. So you don't really get to spend much of any time in this space during the story. You don't explore it at all, which some Destiny players might not care about because they'll use it in the endgame or the side quest missions. But I really liked how important the Dreadnought was to Oryx's story. You really got a sense of its scale and danger. By comparison, the Plague Lands feels more like a backdrop than a fully realized setting. People are probably clicking off this video and disliking it, seeing how negative I have been, so to calm the storm, I will list off a few positive things. First of all, the music here is incredible. Rise of Iron actually has what might be my favorite Destiny track of all time. There are tons of amazing ones to choose from, so much so I've contemplated making an entire video on Destiny's music over the years, so If you want to see that, you can let me know in the comments. But the track Young Wolf is seriously so good. I'd highly recommend you listen to the entire thing, or at least skip to the 2 minutes 55 seconds or so onward, and then just that puts you right at the best part. Super underrated track that barely has any views on YouTube. The Sepix Redux track also goes crazy hard. It is so cool. Fellwinter Peak was also a welcome addition, giving the game another social space with some great sets of scale and some optional activities, I'll say. That's a cozy spot right there. By the fire? Surrounded by the crucible? That's nice. I don't think I really noticed this before, but you can actually see... Yeah. You can actually see the wall. And out there, there's the Cosmodrome. It's cool. Nice sense of scale. I like it, I like it.
During the Dark Age, Lord Silumar and I built this temple.
Boy, always yapping about the past. Now, back in my day, we didn't have that dang grab a ledge mechanic. No. We had to do this out there in the snow with our bare hands, walking to school. I said that I would just try this once, but now I'm determined. The muscle memory is actually unbelievable that I'm able to remember this first try. Because there's something at the top here, isn't there? Like you can actually interact with something. Please, God. Oh, how many years did this come out before the first like only up? Bungie, there's no way. Oh my! Who was the first person that discovered this, you think? What's the speedrun time? You know that people did it too. Lord Saladin right now is like, Siva's about out. I hate my life. Lord Saladin right now is like in full-time crisis mode. Dude is absolutely stressing that Siva's gonna destroy the planet and I'm out here doing this. I don't even know if I'm going in the right direction anymore, to be honest. Wait, I was. Back to the story though, you eventually make your way to the replication chamber, which is basically where the Iron Lords died and where Siva is being produced. And it was at this point, knowing the story was going to end here, where it really hit me how much potential Bungie left unexplored here and how many steps backwards they took when making this campaign. It also needs to be said, like, we have reverted backwards in this campaign in terms of like this final mission. Okay. There was the one room where I took the 2 balls and then just, hey, yo, pause. But, you know, I took there's no other way to say it, and just switched them out, right? Except from that, I've literally just been walking from room to room to room to room. There's just some enemies there and you just shoot them. And that's it. Nothing else has been going on. There's no other, like, design elements in the gameplay other than that. It's just been walk into room after room. And again, the set pieces of this is awesome. Like, this looks super cool, but I think without unique gameplay and without like a unique story, it doesn't live up to its full potential, in my opinion. If you guys can remember, in the replication chamber, the Iron Lords become reanimated by Siva, which is easily the coolest concept in this entire story. But then you fight them, which is also cool, initiate the self-destruct, and instead of that storyline continuing, it just ends with Saladin saying that Siva has been destroyed. There is simply so much more they could have explored here. Saladin having to deal with his friends turning into these puppeteered corpses. The Iron Lords started to fix the problem with Siva that I mentioned earlier. It began to give it some personal stakes and tragedy, but then fizzles into nothing. They could have had the Iron Lords be more story bosses with more missions, or let them be raid bosses where there's these little flashes of their old personalities. Or you could see maybe Siva's interpretation of their personalities, giving the player a chance to learn more about them as Siva is trying to optimize them with its own twisted logic. Siva itself could talk to you through them as it tries to gain consciousness and personality, trying to perfect everything it comes into contact with. We unfortunately get none of that, as Siva isn't really explored anymore beyond this moment. See, this is when it starts getting good. Like, this is a cool reveal. they just don't do anything with this, and then the game ends. Like, this is the first part that's like genuinely really cool. Like, not only from, I mean, the whole visual design's always been good, but this is when the story starts getting good. It's a shame that it ends after this. That this is the climax instead of like the halfway point, you know? Destiny also really starts suffering from the god complex problem here. This area was built up as this place where all but 9 of the 100 Iron Lords died trying to get to this place. And then you get there by yourself with barely any resistance. Not a huge deal, but again, there's more holes and video game logic that you have to accept in Rise of Iron, which is a problem Bungie would repeat in their future stories. Once you finish the campaign, you are greeted by the usual Destiny endgame activities, strikes, Crucible, the new Archon's Forge, and of course, the raid, which remains a standout and is probably the best aspect in Rise of Iron, similar to how Vault of Glass was the best aspect of vanilla Destiny. It really doesn't matter like how much time has passed. Like, whenever you look at these like raid entrances, they're just always so, they just loom over you, and they're just really cool all these years later, like with the fire and stuff, the machinery, the mechanicalness of it. Yeah, that's still thumbnail quality right here all these years later, man. Just like in the Taken King video, I am really happy that I documented these moments. The first time my friends ever played Wrath of the Machine, going in blind, having no idea what the heck to do, all archived on this channel. Where the campaign was extremely simple mechanic-wise, the raid had tons of fun mechanics and tons of variety, from throwing Siva balls at one boss to gathering giant pieces of the Death Zamboni. The only slight criticism I could have is the lack of bosses, with there being only 2, and they're not really as recognizable or as standout or as interesting as Oryx was, but that really isn't a giant deal in the grand scheme of things. The insane task of earning Outbreak Prime was easily one of the coolest things Destiny has ever done. To this day, I also vividly remember grouping with some of the funniest randoms around this time.
Man, this man light my butthole up. Oh my gosh. Don't die on me. No! Oh my god! No!
You're all on your own.
I got this. Well, I'm a one-man this. Oh my, maybe not!
So what are my concluding thoughts on Rise of Iron 9 years later? It is a complicated one. I think Rise of Iron is kind of graded on a curve. If you compare it to the Taken King and want every Destiny expansion to live up to that, you will probably be disappointed. It being shorter than the Taken King is noteworthy, but that really isn't the problem. It's the falling back on old habits that stand out. But if you look at Rise of Iron from the lens of it being a filler expansion that was put together quickly to buy time for Destiny 2, then it's pretty good for Destiny fans, all things considered. You'll find a lot of enjoyment in the raid, endgame loot chase, all that, and can likely look past the bad narrative that basically feels like it exists to introduce you to that endgame content. I look at Rise of Iron similarly to how I look at a game like Batman Arkham Origins. It's a game that didn't really innovate a ton, but for those that like the series, it gave them something enjoyable to do while the bigger sequel was made. And I think it's fair to look at this from either angle. I also love Batman Arkham Origins, I can't lie, I made a whole video on it years ago. When you have this piece of information in mind, a lot of Rise of Iron's content recontextualizes itself, and you get a sense of maybe why things are the way they are. I don't know if this is really like a fair criticism, especially to make so early on, but I feel like with something like the Taken King and the Dreadnought, that was such like a new location, it felt so just like different and like an expansion on top of what was already there, of this being like a completely different destination that you went to. Whereas here in the Cosmodrome, like, it's cool that they added this stuff and there's like the snow and whatnot, but it feels less special in a way, or like less of an expansion of the game, like going further out into the universe, because this is still an area that, you know, we have been to before. And I know that the Plaguelands is different, and that is true, it is different. But it is an extension of the existing map that we're already on, rather than it being like going to a new planet. So I don't think it's like necessarily bad that you're not necessarily going to a new planet or a new destination with every single expansion, but I do think that that helps even just like psychologically disconnect yourself, like this new area, from anything that you've done before, and it causes it to feel more new, if that makes sense. Like this feels cool but kind of samey, like just how like the Splicer, as they just make their introduction here, even though they are new, they are still the Fallen. And I think it's the same with the Plaguelands, where it's like it is new, but it's sort of like a repainted new rather than being like feeling like brand new, if that makes sense. The sight on this gun is really cool. Like look at how it fades out, how you don't see it unless you're ADSing. It's very cool. The SIVA weapons and gear in general, and even just like the whole premise of like them doing this with the Plague Lancet and the Cosmodrome, it's all cool, and it's also sort of genius from maybe like a game making perspective, because SIVA is all about this like biohacking, you know, modifying the look of something. So like when they have these weapons where it's like it's kind of lame, how this is just like a Hake weapon that's like been like augmented in some way with the SIVA, or like infected by SIVA. So they're like slightly more boring than a lot of other weapons in Destiny, in my opinion, at least, like the visual look of it. But it was probably so much easier to make these assets, because or Bungie would get criticized for like they're just reskinning everything. They kind of like wrote reskinning into the story of the game with SIVA, because SIVA kind of just takes something and infects it and augments it. So it's like I kind of don't like it, but I respect the efficiency. I'll say that. I respect the efficiency. You can take that as impressive that they put this together as fast as they did, or be disappointed it's a step back from what they showed they were capable of. In a lot of ways, Rise of Iron is worse than I remember it being, just being honest, but I think that says more about my nostalgia than anything else. My recollection of vanilla Destiny was pretty negative, and after replaying it, my low expectations were met. Same with the Taken King, just with high expectations. So for Rise of Iron, I would say after all these years, it's more like vanilla Destiny than I remember. In many of my more recent Destiny reviews, if you want to call them that, I describe them as being more Destiny, which if you like Destiny isn't inherently a bad thing. If anything, if you like Destiny, more Destiny is probably a good thing. But if you want Destiny to be more, you'll find yourself disappointed. That's basically where I would put Rise of Iron. This feels like just a very big step backwards towards the vanilla game in ways of the story, and then also in ways of some of the gameplay mechanics and things like that. Like, I could be wrong, but I feel like this might have been the first time, you know, these days I've said that, you know, a lot of Destiny expansions, they're just fine, like they're just passable. And if you want more Destiny, you'll enjoy it. This feels like that might have been the first time where this was the case, where it was like, it wasn't necessarily going to bring anyone new on board that already didn't like the game. But if you were a fan of Destiny like myself, and this gave you more of it, then you probably enjoyed it. But, you know, looking at it, trying to be as more of an outsider or more of an objective point of view, just looking at how that campaign was, it was not very good. This takes us to the end of the video, and thus the end of this series. I would have totally continued this, to be honest, but seeing that Red War is next, and that isn't playable, so I'm gonna have to end things here. I have really enjoyed my time replaying through all of Destiny 1 for what it's worth, and really appreciate all of you for watching these videos. If you enjoyed this video, you can let me know by leaving a like. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Comment below your thoughts on Rise of Iron. Thank you so much for watching again and making it to the end. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.